The first and last piece of legislation deal with the North Broad Street project. The first item is to appropriate the funds that are necessary for the local share of the North Broad Street project. The second one is the legislation necessary for the loan documents to take place, the signing of the loan documents for the police radios, which we talked about a few weeks ago. We've got all the paperwork in order, and that's ready to go upon your approval. Item C is a resolution which is passed annually. It's a formal request to the auditor's office to advance money or collections of the real estate taxes for the first part of the year. And lastly is the final resolution necessary for the authorization to proceed with the North Broad Street Safety Upgrade Project. And I hope we can move forward on that project. Had as much discussion as I could with ODOT, and there's no additional funding available to help us with that 250-some thousand that's necessary. Locally, as I say, it would probably cut into whatever we appropriate this year or decide to appropriate for resurfacing, and may not. In talking with the finance director, as of this date, and I quote as of this date because we haven't closed out the books for last year, our general fund is as healthy as it's been in probably the last 3 or 4 years. That's a good thing. We've also, in talking with the income tax administrator, income tax receipts last year have been up 8% from last year. Another good thing. Those are both positive. So let's hope that we step into 2017 in better fiscal condition than we were anticipating. And at this point, it does appear that we are. I'll let Christine elaborate on that if she wishes to, or as I say, it's preliminary at this point. The other item I wanted to bring up was mention the water bill. And in talking to members of council individually on that issue, it appears that there's not enough members interested in waiving that, in putting legislation on. We need at least 3 people interested to address it and to put legislation on the table. It doesn't appear as though there's 3 members interested. The fact being that the water bills go out, they're given 5 days from the date that the payment is due, which is the grace period. And when they don't pay beyond that 5 days, that's when the penalty kicks in. So at this point, I would say that issue is put to bed unless one of council wants to bring it up and address it with the other members. But I don't feel that there is sufficient participation or votes on the floor to bring that up.
Joe, does this mean then that there are no exceptions for being late? Absolutely none?
For that issue, for late fees, right.
So regardless of what happens, you cannot come forward to us, right, anymore with requests like that. Is that what we're saying?
Well, again, it doesn't prohibit any resident from coming to council and making that request, but
so
there's no...
someone feels that they have a legitimate reason, an honest mistake, or whatever, they would need to come here directly to us.
Yep.
But it's not going to be brought to us by you ever again, correct?
Yes, well, it'll be brought to me because I prepare the legislation or the request from those residents, but again, there's no reason to develop rules and regulations as to why we would waive them, because there's not enough members of council willing to do so.
Yeah. I know I'm thick, but I think we just made a decision by not making one. We made a decision that there are no exceptions for anyone who is late for the water bill, and we could publish that so they won't waste their time coming in front of this group.
I don't think legally.
Is that fair to say?
No, I don't think that is fair to say. If I could.
Okay.
I think what we've done here is
help me understand.
Yeah, these come to council kind of on an ad hoc, one at a time basis. When somebody feels like they're entitled to a refund or a waiver of a penalty, only council can do that. Just like only council can provide for a structure in the right of way. There's certain things that only council can do. That's going to continue. What we were trying to do, or what we tried to do, was adopt a set of rules and regulations where people who had been good payers with a good record, etc., would be automatically exempt from penalties. and not have to come to council. That is the issue that we're not going to,
Well,
we're not going to have that in
That
place.
just confuses me all the more, because if we were going to do this in an efficient way,
Yeah, I think
whatever our criteria would be to tell this
Well,
person.
yeah, I think the intent, Joe, was to move that decision from council to my desk if they met that criteria.
Right, that's continuous
But-
improvement in my eyes.
Yeah, but if,
Instead of wasting our time on something like that.
Joe, it's my understanding that in the past, you used to make those decisions, and then the auditors came in and slapped you on the wrist because
when I
they
first
said-
came on as city manager, I didn't realize that I didn't have the authority to waive.
And that's good, that's okay, that's guidance from the auditors. But I see our function, or at least I see my function as part of this council, to give you the tools to manage. And I see nothing wrong with giving you a procedure to follow. So many days, person has to apply, whatever those rules are that Mark was working on. I think our job is to give you guidance and let you manage, because if it has to come to us on all of that stuff, we're starting to do your job. I would like to visit that tonight and make a decision on it.
Yeah, well, again,
Simply
from
take
my
a roll call.
observation, from talking to you individually, there was only 2 people that are in favor of doing that. I don't know if you want to bring it on.
I mean, yeah, let's just talk, I mean, go ahead, who's in favor? My understanding from Joe was that there were only 2 members of council that wanted to move forward with an exemption algorithm, and the other 3 members of council, in talking with them, did not want to move forward. So, you know, where are we? If you want us to move forward, we'll bring it back up. But it's not on your agenda because there didn't seem to be support.
Based on the comment that I just made, it seems so logical that everybody should fall right in line. It's my understanding that our job is to give you the guidelines to manage this city, to run this city. Why wouldn't we want to give you a procedure to follow and not, please excuse this phrase, don't bother us with this stuff?
Well, again, the policy and procedure as it exists allows for a 5-day waiver of somebody to know that my bill's due on this date, and it gives you 5 days to make it right and pay it without penalty.
There's already
We can expand on that, and we can take the auditors off your back and let you make that decision. These are the parameters, this is what has to take place, I made the decision. If they don't comply with that procedure, it's, no, you're not getting a refund.
This issue comes up so very infrequently.
Yeah, like once a year.
It's very infrequent. And so, and there is a 5-day grace, there's something already in place. So my contention is, don't create a slippery slope. Pay your bill. So that's my stand.
This 5-day grace period, if you were unaware, you think you paid it, we call them up and say, 1 day of your grace period's gone, 2 days, you're unaware of it, right?
It's on the bill. You know, when you get your bill, it gives you the 2 amounts. It says you owe this. If you pay it out, if you don't pay it.
Let me ask you this. Why did you bring this case to us, Joe? Why did you come to us?
It was requested by an individual to
What did
waive.
you want us to do with that?
Consider it.
Yeah, take it under advisement and advise me where, which,
Yeah, that's all. I mean,
So what did you decide in the past? I wasn't around.
sometimes they were waived and
Did you always
sometimes,
decide to pay the bill?
sometimes they were waived, sometimes they weren't. Rarely were they waived.
I know I'm a thick head here, but if whatever criteria we would use to make that decision, all we're saying
But
is,
isn't that criteria already there? Don't we already
then why
have
does
that
it come here?
criteria?
Why doesn't Joe make a decision?
Because he can't.
It's only
We could allow him to do that by putting here's the decision criteria. We were here, let me tell you what my recollection is, okay? And I'm gonna take as much time as I need, right?
Yeah, I got an email.
You said, Bernie, that in the past, Joe brought these things forward, right? Because when he made the decision himself, we were slapped on the wrist. Don't do that. So we changed it, right? So you brought these things forward. That's not correct.
No, it's not correct.
Okay.
For 10 or 15 years before Joe was city manager, these things came to council one at a time as somebody requested a refund or a waiver of the penalty. That's the way it worked. And it was probably once a year, maybe twice a year. When Joe became city manager, he thought he had the authority, and he did not. So then, once again, they came to council. But historically, they've always come to council requesting a waiver of a penalty or a refund or something relative to late payment. That's the way it's always been, because only council has the authority.
Okay.
So we didn't change anything.
Okay, and when Joe came forward, then we were going to do what we always did, I guess, right? We were going to rule on this.
Yeah, you listen, and if there's
And
peculiar...
you said, wait a minute, we need to be consistent, and we have to use criteria that is defensible.
Yep.
Can't forgive one person and not another without documentation, because we'd be subject to...
Arbitrarily
yeah.
deciding things,
So
correct.
that's where we went, right?
Yep,
So you put together criteria that, in my judgment, a 12-year-old can follow.
yep, I thought so too.
My opinion.
Yep,
I think it could be put on a computer, and it could spit out yes or no, right? That was one reason this group didn't want to make that decision. Now, I know there's philosophy up here too, you know? You step out of bounds, you're out. But from a manageable standpoint, we said, can we put criteria together that's defensible? You did. Looks defensible to me.
me too.
And then we said, well, how much is this going to cost? And is this going to cost us a lot of money? And Joe said, practically free. You know, I'm exaggerating. But no. So those two reasons were why we didn't want to put it on cruise control. And now all of a sudden we're saying, you know, it doesn't happen that often. Let's just keep doing it and keep talking about it, right? So I'm saying let's put it to bed once and for all. Let's make a rule that says there are no exceptions to this, or let's say what the exceptions are and be more efficient at it by giving it to our manager to do so that we don't spend the time doing it. Whatever criteria we use to make that decision, Mark, when it comes up, let's just document it and give it to the city manager, and then we can talk about strategic planning. Or we say...
That's your call. I mean, I'm prepared.
And I'm talking to you, but I'm
Yeah.
talking to my colleagues as well. If we don't want to do this because, you know, we got enough said, then don't bring it here anymore. Let's not, so don't come here and ask us for that. If they write you a letter,
But even with
send
the
them a letter and
criteria,
say-
it's not going to stop an individual if he wants to come to council and address it.
What I'm saying is, let's be definitive, all right? There are no reasons in this city that you could be exempt from a late payment, period. And then it's done, and I'm okay with it. But to have someone come here every so often and we get into the same discussion, and some people say, you know what, you step out of bounds, you're out. Others say, well, you know, there's exceptions. What if you get pushed out? What if your dog died? Whatever. We get in that philosophical discussion, it continues, and I'm continuing it. I understand it. All I'm saying, let's put this to bed once and for all. Either we grant exceptions or we don't. And then life goes on, and it's simpler. We don't have to spend this time, you know, saying, well, you know, when I paid my Discover card and I was late, well, they forgave me. Well, you know, we're off into the weeds, and I know I take us there often. But I'd like to put this to bed once and for all so we can move on to other things.
I agree with Mr. Cicero saying. I've always been leery of the ad hoc approach to somebody coming forward. We really don't have standards that apply. We kind of listen to their story. Historically, if the story sounded good enough, they granted some sort of relief. That's arbitrary. That's capricious. That will get us in trouble. So I thought the development of an algorithm was a pretty good, or a set of guidelines was a pretty good idea. And I would agree that if you don't want to do that, then let's just say, as to late payments, there won't be, I agree with Mr. Cicero, from a legal standpoint.
And so, if we need to take action to say that, Joe, don't come forward with, I don't care if lightning strikes their house, we're way out.
But keep in mind, we can never adopt a rule or regulation that stops any individual from showing up at council, signing to
We can
speak.
give Joe guidance.
No. Anybody can walk in this room, any resident, sign in to speak and complain about their water bill. Anybody, right?
And absolutely.
We can't stop
And
that.
then I think the answer will be, I'll write it in the column here. Absolutely no exceptions, I'm sorry. And then we move right on.
5-day grace period.
Right?
5-day grace period.
I'm just, if they didn't know, Joe, I don't, if they don't know, if you don't know you're in the grace period, what good does it do you? But I'm okay. just tell me how we're going to go forward with this. Are we going to not grant, Mark, maybe you guys,
Well, you have three options.
what do we do?
Either adopt the guidelines that were kind of automatic, robo guidelines, they were going to work pretty easily. Or you say, no, there's going to be no exceptions for a penalty. Or you continue to handle them on an ad hoc basis. Those are your three options.
In the interest of efficiency, right? And this time, I'm chewing up time here, but we'll make it up next year. They're either, we're going to give it to Joe with an algorithm that he can make that decision, because I don't think it should be up here. It's not that tough a decision. We either grant it or we don't. That's where I'd like to go with it.
Let me ask a question of Joe. Joe, would you like to have guidelines to make these decisions as the city manager?
Yeah, I thought as it was presented, it gives the opportunity to grant a good customer, one time, one strike you're out type of thing. Yeah.
You would
But
like to have that?
that was the philosophy that I
You'd like to have that caught
took
in your
upon
back.
myself and got hollered at for doing. So the decision became yours at that point. Yeah.
Joe, I say that respectfully. You were trying to do your job.
But that's my personal opinion.
The auditors had a different opinion of that.
Right.
I hope everybody understands that. I would like, let's vote on it. Do we need a motion?
No, I mean, if you want to just, kind of cast a vote tonight, one way or
Well,
the other.
pass or reject, pass or reject.
We don't have the legislation for the rules to be implemented, but if like a straw poll would be helpful tonight, and if there's three of you that want to see that, then we'll put it on the agenda. If three of you don't want to see that, then we're not going to do that. So, or we'll put it on the agenda and bring it to a vote, if that's what you want to see. We could do that next meeting.
Yes, I think that's, I think.
Okay,
However we
that's how we'll put it to
however we
bed.
can put it to bed,
That's how we'll do it.
that's how I want
Okay.
to see it done. So we want
You'll
to
see it
talk
next
about
agenda. It'll be on your agenda next meeting.
What I would like to do, I'd like to read into the record that if we would provide Joe with these guidelines, this procedure to follow, every case that would come up would be a $3,300 cost reduction, where we would not have to talk about this.